It's Ash from Super Videos back at you for another Q&A video. So this is going to be Q&A number 30. Now before I start this Q&A video, I just want to thank everyone for their positive messages on the special 1K video. Thank you all for your positive messages. I haven't really been replying to some of them, but I read all of them. I'm going to be replying, of course, when I get the time, but again, thank you everyone for their positive messages. I really appreciate it. So let's get right into this Q&A video. As always, if you're not caught up with the Walking Dead's TV show and comic book, you may not want to watch this video because it may spoil some things for you. So let's get started. Let's start with the Walking Dead's TV show questions. The first question comes from Steven Moraga. He asks, do you think the show will have Dwight be the leader of the Saviors or Daryl? I definitely believe they need to stick with the comics. They should not remix it and give Dwight's story to Darrell. So Dwight should still become the leader of the Saviors, and they should make Darrell have some other role later on in the story. The next question from TheBlackAntiHero. He asks, do you think Tobin will become a big character in The Walking Dead's TV show? No, I don't, because there's already too many characters that are introduced, and with the new community that's rumored to be introduced in the back half of season 7, we're gonna get a lot of characters like this. So because of that, I don't think they're gonna give small characters like Tobin from Alexandria any sort of screen time or any focus. So I don't think they'll ever be big characters. The next question comes from Philo Mystery T. He has two questions. The first one, Edwin Jenner from season 1. Do you think he would have been useful if he survived, or should he have been introduced in later seasons? I think he would definitely have been useful, much like Eugene is, because of course he was a scientist. Eugene knows things, so I think if he was alive at this point, he would definitely be useful to them. But in terms of should he have been alive by this point, and whether or not they should have kept him alive or introduced him later on so that he's alive at this point, I don't think so. I think story-wise, what they had was proper, so I don't think they should have introduced him later on, because I don't think it would have been beneficial to have him be alive at this point, even though he would have been useful. But story-wise, I don't think it would serve the story in a positive way to have him be alive at this point. So because of that, I think what they did with him was okay. So they didn't need to bring him in later on so that he's alive at this point. The next question you have is, if Darrell had never escaped, do you think Negan would eventually break him? Not completely, but I think he would break him to the point that he would be like Dwight. He would be compliant, but he would definitely be looking for a way out. And he wouldn't be kneeling completely, per se. That's a good question. The next question comes from Royals King 35 Royal, and he has two questions. The first one, who would you most likely want to die in season 7, 8, 9, and so on? So that's a very heavy question for me to answer. As long as there's a purpose to killing whoever they're gonna kill off, I don't care who it is. Like I said, as long as it moves the story forward and it serves the story, I don't care who they kill off. They can kill off Daryl, Carl, Rick, for all I know, as long as it moves the story forward and also doesn't ruin the story that they have in the comics, because that's where the story is coming from. They're adapting a story from the comics. The next question you have is, do you think we will see any war in the second half of season 7? No, I don't. I think we're going to see some small battles here and there, but in terms of the actual war, I don't think it's going to officially start until season 8. So, no. The next question comes from Bilotna Jenny. They have two questions as well. He asks, the first one, can you mention those background characters that can or has the potential, or let's just say who is willing to join Rick's militia in All Out War, all the communities? I think Cindy from the Oceanside and some of the other girls there would definitely be useful. I think back at the Hilltop, Jesus for sure. The other member of the Hilltop that got into a scuffle with Abraham and almost choked him out, he would be perfect. In terms of the Kingdom, Richard, Benjamin, Jerry, and some of the other ones would definitely be useful. And from Alexandria itself, people like Francine, like Tobin, Aaron, and people like that would definitely be useful in this war. The next question you have is, do you think Rutina Wesley is also perfect for the role of Michonne? since she was considered to play the character when they have a casting call, or when they had the casting call. So I just went and checked who it is, and I think that would have been a good pick, but I can't imagine anyone other than Danai Gurira playing Michonne, because she's been playing her for so long and she is so perfect for the role. But they could have definitely brought any other character as long as they play the character well. It was a perfect pick, but I could definitely have seen Rutina Wesley play her as well. Now let's move on to the Walking Dead's comic book and TV show questions. The first one comes from Final Mystery T. He asks, who would you cast as Beta? In terms of a specific actor, I can't think of anyone right now, but I think anyone they choose or anyone they cast at that point, when we get to that point in the story, they have to pick someone who is a big character in terms of physical characteristics. So they need to be large, they need to be strong, they need to be very buff, because if you remember in the comics, Negan is manhandled by Beta. So I think if they want to make it be believable and realistic, they need to cast someone who's at least larger than Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays Negan. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I believe, is like 6 foot. So someone who's larger than Jeffrey Dean Morgan for Beta would be the way to go, because other than that, it would not feel like it did in the comics. And I definitely believe they need to keep that component of the story, because it was an essential part of the story. And what I mean is Negan being manhandled by Beta and being intimidated by Beta a little bit. But that's a good question. The next one comes from Bilat Najeni. They ask, who is your bet for playing the character of Lydia? So for Lydia, I think she's a smaller character, so I think they're gonna probably cast an unknown actor. So because of that, I really don't have a bet, because I don't know who they're gonna cast. In terms of an actress, as long as whoever they pick is at the same age as Carl, maybe even a bit younger, it would be definitely okay. So whoever they choose, it would probably work as long as the actress they choose is around the same age as Carl or Chandler Riggs. And also, there needs to be some sort of chemistry between Chandler Riggs and the actress they choose. And I don't mean that in terms of them actually being in a relationship in real life or anything like that. I just mean that the interaction between them, the acting, needs to be organic and it shouldn't feel forced or anything like that. So yeah. Now let's move on to the Walking Dead comic book questions. There's only one, and it comes from Steven Moraga. He asks, after seeing the new comic covers, do you think the Saviors will start another war with Rick? And do you think at the end they will kill Dwight? So no, I don't think there's going to be another war with the Saviors. I think that's already been done once, and they're not going to do that all over again. But I think the Saviors are going to be a one-time thing. So they're going to show up, there's going to be some sort of battle, and they're going to be exterminated, and they're no longer going to be a threat. So I definitely think that they're not going to be a long-term villain anymore. And in terms of them killing Dwight, I don't think so. I think if Dwight is going to go, he has to go either by the hands of Negan or in some epic fashion, not by these new so-called saviors that are there at this point in the story. Now let's move on to Fear the Walking Dead questions. So it's been a long time since I had any Fear questions, but I have one here. It comes from David Farley. He asks, when do you think we will see the Fear the Walking Dead Season 3 trailer? So I think that's going to be probably coming up after Season 7 of The Walking Dead's original show ends. Sometimes around April or May, probably, is going to be when that's going to happen. That's it for this Q&A video. Thanks for participating. If you want to participate in my next Q&A video, write your questions in the comment section below. Make sure to put Q&A before your comment so I can find it. So that's it. I'll be back for another video.